Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast, and welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
What are some of the weirdest things you've ever happened across in the woods? Some friends I had as a child all talked of odd or inexplicable things they found in the woods together, like abandoned cars in the midst of large trees, much older than their make and model, which would have had no way to get in or out from betwixt such trees, or a tree knot stuffed with human hair. All I ever found were some dice and old shoes.
Be me. High school kid in a small town. Popular state park in town that friends and I frequent. 3 houses in the middle of the park that you can only access by the trails. Pretty nice houses at one time, not some tiny cabins. Driveway had an entrance to a small road nearby that was pretty hidden and gated. Friend tells me he's been inside the houses and they're abandoned. The strange part is they seemed completely abandoned, but every once in a while there would be luxury vehicles in the driveway. Once every few weeks to few months. We're talking Porsches, Hummers, Lambos, etc. Lots of them, like 5 or 6 at a time or none. Not something you see every day in my rural small town. Make a plan to go in the house anyway. My buddy is absolutely sure they are abandoned and completely unworried. Meet up at the park with 6 people. Myself, 4 friends, 1 friend's girlfriend. Friend's girlfriend's dad is a cop in our town. The one who has already been there starts leading the way up the trail. The trail turns into cobblestone, then paved over with asphalt as we approach the houses. Get to the central driveway of the 3 houses. Cars aren't there. The coast is clear. Houses look abandoned with a couple weird exceptions. One has broken windows overgrown by ivy, and even some graffiti on it, but a satellite dish on the roof that looks brand new. Friend led us to the back door, which was already ajar. Inside is very weird. No furniture, no signs of inhabitants, no clothes, no pictures, etc. Lots, and I mean lots of canned goods. Every single room has stacks of cans and old bottles. Seem to be ranging in age for at least 100 years. Pile of Spam cans and beans that were no older than a couple years old, next to glass Windex bottles from the 1930s. Jars filled with random shit everywhere, containing anything from spices to hardware to coins. Walk around both floors only to find every room is exactly the same, with collections of random canned and jarred goods. One of us gets the bright idea to go down to the basement. Buddy opens the door to the basement. It's pitch black down there. Reluctantly, but with an exaggerated sense of confidence, he starts heading down. Doesn't make it down more than a step or 2 before we hear a car slowly rolling into the driveway and a car door shut. Oh shit, it's the Porsche motorcade coming to lynch us. All freeze in dead silence. No, we have to leave, but the only way out is the back door in full view of the driveway. Decide to walk out all at once and face whoever it is. Maybe even talk our way out of spelunking some boomer's prepper storage house or whatever. It's the fucking cops. Dad, what are you doing here? Friend's girlfriend, cop dad, standing in the driveway, which has a locked gate, next to his patrol cruiser. He's pissed. Deathstare.gif. Walks up to us slowly, looks and just says, "Go home." Anon's girlfriend gets angry and argues as a teenage girl would. But Dad, we weren't doing anything. It's just an empty house. You're trespassing on federal government property. Puts her in the car and waits in the driveway till he sees us leave through the trail. Anon's girlfriend tells us her dad refused to tell her anything or answer any of her follow-up questions, including how he knew we were there and how he got in the gate. few months pass and we're back in the same park smoking a blunt with two of the kids that came in the house with me. It's late, like midnight or so. A light goes on in the distance. It's the house at the top of the hill, the empty one that we went inside of. Figures standing in the upstairs window looking out in our direction. Do a 360 and book it out of there. Never attempted going near those houses again.
Anon. You're lucky you didn't get trafficked or just straight up killed. If you see abandoned places with luxury cars or people that look classy, the location is 100% a criminal operation.
I know. I think the main reason we were spared was the cop dad. The reason he was so pissed wasn't because we broke the law. It was because of the amount of danger we were putting ourselves in. The place was definitely bugged. Cops definitely get a call, or maybe even have access to the CCTV themselves. And they realized it was his daughter instead of sending a hit team or whatever he hauled ass over there to save his daughter.
2 stories. Neither are particularly scary, just had odd, creepy feelings about them. First, I'm in a public park, walking a trail. I get to a point where the trail changes from an open plains-type area to a forested, closed-off one. The park itself was pretty quiet, and the canopy makes the area look shaded. It runs next to a creek. Actually, pretty nice. Anyways, I'm walking down this trail, and I see 3 men ahead of me coming towards me. Mind you, the trail is quite narrow, like a small sidewalk. The first is a skinny, tweaker-looking dude. He's twitching/moving around, talking to himself in an almost annoyed way. Like if you're explaining something to someone in a stern way and say, "I told you X, Y, and Z." The other 2 are less memorable. One was average. The other was a taller, fat, but powerful-looking guy, bald with a beard. As I came towards them, he said something like, "Oh, Jesus." I guess maybe embarrassed or annoyed I saw his friend like this. Anyways, there was just a feeling of tension as I passed them. And once we'd both passed, we both looked back at each other at the same time and held that look for a few seconds. I'm a small guy myself, so if they wanted to do something bad to me, they definitely could have. No one was around. The second story was recent, actually. I was on my grandparents' property, and Grandpa reported he'd seen a bear in the yard last night. It ignored him, apparently digging or interested in something in the ground. I felt an odd urge to go check out the back of the property the following day. They have guns, but I didn't bring one. The property stretches back about half a mile, and the woods were very quiet that day. Near the very back is a pond. The property is shaped like a long rectangle, the house at one end and the pond at the other. I stood around and just listened for anything. Very odd, scary, but also peaceful feeling, knowing it might be out there as well. Saw what looked like a hind paw print and left.
My parents still remember this and sometimes bring it up when I visit. They half joke, but they have since turned very religious. Be me, 13-year-old Albanian, 1992, end of communist regime. Peasant parents that were forced to move to cities decide to return to the old village. The village is called MITZU, middle of nowhere in the north. View is amazing, high up in the mountains. Meet grandparents for the first time. Warned again and again not to stay too long in the forest and not go too deep. 13-year-old Anon with no friends or internet goes into the forest and stays too long. Decide to make a map like the old stories from books. Wander about every day and draw shitty scribbles on paper. Summer break arrives and parents go into town for business. Decide now is the best time to go deeper into the forest. Grab an old axe from the shed and pretend to be a trailblazer. come across a small circle of mushrooms, never seen before. Look around and see 9 birch trees form a circle around a mushroom circle. Only birch trees I saw among endless oaks and chestnut. Decide I will fall down for whatever 13-year-old stupid reason. Take my first few shitty swings and feel the air get colder. Feels like I did something wrong. Feel watched. Hear something I can only explain as a yelling growl. Shit self, drop axe, and run. Make it out. And my heart is pounding. Sun is setting despite me leaving after breakfast. I got scolded and belted to hell and back for the axe and going out for so long. Real/X/ starts after forest. Start having nightmares and dreams about old friends from the city beckoning me into the forest. Nightmares about me hiding from something in the house. Scared shitless of everything for the next few days. Goats and chickens suddenly terrified of getting close to me. A particularly bad nightmare. Wake up to something scratching on my window, covered in cold sweat. It goes away eventually. The nightmare repeats 2 more times. Next time thing tries to push the window open. Long, lanky, dirty hands. It walks away towards the front door. Cowered out and run to parents' room. Dad is a heavy sleeper. Mom is already awake. Start crying and she comforts me. Fall asleep in their room. Following day, my room is fucking trashed. Clothes everywhere and the bed frame is broken. Get yelled at again despite not being able to wreck my room that way, even if I wanted. Following day, get taken to the neighboring village priest. Get baptized and gifted crucifix. Nightmares get fewer and farther between since then. Still scared of the forest every time I visit.
I once found a deer's spine in a small abandoned aluminum cistern of some kind. I'd found bones in the woods before, but it was really weird that it was just the spine and nothing else. It was in a junkyard near a trailer park, so maybe not that unusual. I also found an abandoned cabin. It looked just like a really small modern home with a metal door, vinyl siding, double pane windows and shingles. But the weirdest thing was the foundation. It was built entirely on a wood deck 10 feet over a seasonal stream, with the door just a couple of feet away from the top of the bank. I don't recall seeing any pipes or outhouse, but there were wires leading underground, so it must have had electricity. I was with my younger brother, both adults, and we both thought the whole situation was strange. It was located in an old campground that had been abandoned by the nearby state park. We also found old garbage cans, a small scrap heap, and a concrete shuffleboard court. That was probably the most unexplainable thing I've ever found. Why would someone build such a tiny cabin in such a strange location, with no plumbing and no outhouse? If it was part of the former campground, why was it in such good shape when the area had been abandoned for decades? If it was in use, what was it used for? It was a 100-yard walk through thick forest, with no trail from the nearest place to park a car. It was too small and too remote for storage, too underdeveloped for a dwelling. So what was its purpose? Pick-related is a close example, except there were no windows on the door. The windows weren't curtained, but it was too dark inside to see from the stream bank, and there was no way to climb up to them. We tried the door, but it was locked. There were some tools and supplies in front of the door, but I don't remember what they were, except for a tin of mixed nuts, and possibly a hammer. It looked to me like whoever put them there had been there recently, because no scavenger would miss a food tin.
I live in Scotland, and I've had more than my fair share of weird experiences in the woodland, both paranormal and not. Found multiple fairy circles, some made from sticks and stones, some naturally formed from mushrooms growing in circles way out in the middle of nowhere. Once found an old crashed car in an area too dense with trees for a car to even enter. Entire car was infested with ants. While checking out an abandoned mansion in the Woodlands somewhere in Ayrshire, with some friends we all had the feeling of being watched. When leaving the area, one of my friend's jacket was physically pulled back as if grabbed. This one is the scariest to me though. B15. Exploring woods with friends, find a collapsed tent in the middle of the woods. Assume it was teenagers drinking and they abandoned the site to run from police, so we go to check it out. Getting closer, we find a large wooden structure made from various planks nailed together. Looks like one of those crosses they strap people to in BDSM. Friend picks the structure up at one end and yells, pulls back, and his hand is covered in blood. We rush over, assuming he cut his hand, but he didn't. The entire top end is coated in old blood. Scared now, we open the tent. Hammer, saw and a hatchet inside. All of us shit bricks and run away. Never tell the police.
I live near a large forest and constantly hike in there. Almost every other hike I spot something that wasn't there before. From harmless things like signs of someone making a fire or making camp or trying to build some silly shelter out of twigs, to bizarre or even spooky things like last month, I found a place that was overgrown with bushes before. Now someone took down a bunch of young birches, twisted them together into a 10-meter wide wood circle, and placed a large boulder in the middle of said circle. My weirdest thing was probably a brain fart I had half a year ago. I was walking through a familiar part of the woods, enjoying nature, being all chill, when my brain started signaling me all of a sudden. Basically, my mind filled with a single thought. "Do not look to your right! If you look, you will die!" It was out of nowhere, but it was so strong my neck tensed so much, every muscle in it, that I think I would not have been able to move my head to the right, even if I really, really wanted to. I still don't know what it was that scared me so much. I just kept walking as I looked straight in front of me, fearing the very notion of looking to my right. After I walked 500 meters like this, the fear completely went away. I have no idea what scared me so much, because as explained, I didn't see it, couldn't look there even if I tried. Maybe there was a scary skeleton hanging from a tree or something. Either way, my brain totally blanks when I think about that evening.
I had a similar experience when I was exploring an abandoned campground with my brother. We found a small, modern-style cabin in the woods, and while we were looking around, I suddenly became afraid that we were in a place we shouldn't be. I didn't say anything and just signaled to my brother it was time to leave. He seemed to understand immediately. Maybe the expression on my face said something my mouth couldn't. Out in the wilderness, instinct kicks in. A human unconsciously knows certain things that can't be put into words. I've spent long periods of time out in the wilderness, both alone and with friends and family, and I usually become a slightly different person. I'm more alert despite having ADD and more cautious despite being laid back when in the city. Even when I'm with large groups, or perhaps because of them, I become more thoughtful and meditative. I feel like it's my sole responsibility to keep people safe. I can't help but feel that there are things that live in the wild that aren't flesh and blood, things that most people raised in modern civilization don't notice. I've had a lot of close calls that could have kept me from ever seeing home again, so maybe I'm just slightly paranoid. I've talked with others who have had weird things happen while hiking and camping, from strange thoughts and sensations to full-on paranormal phenomena involving animals, or suddenly finding themselves lost despite being familiar with the area. Truthfully, nature scares the shit out of me, but despite the risk, I can't help but keep going back for more. I'm not an adrenaline junkie. I just feel like I'm supposed to be out there no matter what might happen.
Oh, for sure, man. That sounds about right. Honestly, hiking is what turned me from being an atheist. I'm not sure I know what I believe right now. Like, I won't name you a certain god or even a certain belief system, but I just know there's something, and shit like that premonition, I had only made this belief stronger. I see you also feel the call. It's good, despite all the scary shit that pops out from time to time. You won't believe how depressed and miserable I was before I started hiking. A few spooky encounters and spooky finds are nothing compared to the benefits. Even if a squatch eats me one day, it will be totally worth it for all the beauty I've seen and all the inner peace I found. Though I'd love to one day learn what sort of things they are, the things that walk the trails alongside you and make your hair stand up, or make you get lost, or do actual good shit, like make you feel relaxed. A few times I went off trail following a strange feeling, as if a calling, but not a verbal one, like something grabbed me by the soul and pulled me off the trail. I walked almost mechanically, not really caring where I was going. But when I got there, I found a beautiful place, much better than the one I wanted to camp at in the first place. And nothing bad happened. So something just led me to show me a beautiful little clearing with berries and shit. I really want to see them one day. These things that cause all those feelings.
I can directly relate to everything you've said. Finding meaning in experiencing the natural world, even being pulled to walk where I hadn't thought to explore. Once I went through a severe depressive episode, and after a couple of years I started having dreams of being killed and eaten by bears. Night after night for 3 months I woke up in a cold sweat, still feeling the teeth and blood on my skin. Eventually the dreams stopped and I started pulling myself together, getting treatment, and reconnecting with friends and family. I know now the bears were telling me to wake up from hibernation and get moving. After a couple of years, I went to a family reunion in the Smoky Mountains. I had never seen a wild bear before, and when I heard they were seen around our cabins, I remembered the dreams. I wasn't interested in encountering a bear, but one morning I was standing on the ground floor deck outside my room and suddenly looked over my shoulder to see a full-grown bear blocking my path. I didn't feel scared, just cautious, and within a few seconds it was walking away. I knew I had to get it out of the area since it obviously didn't fear humans, so I followed it while yelling, "Bad bear, get out of here, go," until it was in the woods. I scared off 2 more bears in the next 30 minutes. My family thanked me for chasing them away, but I was honestly more concerned for the bears than for my family. I love animals, but I know that if they don't fear humans, they'll be seen as dangerous and killed. I was taught by the spirit of the bear to be resilient. I'm glad I was able to return the favor by teaching bears to be wary of humans. As far as seeing the things that cause these feelings, they don't exist to be seen like plants and animals. They exist to teach, and it's better to teach through experience than through observation. I think there are evil things that exist to harm, but that may just be part of the lesson.
That's a beautiful story, man, and your amicable attitude towards animals is really cool. Nowadays, most forget things have spirits. Like, I didn't think I had a spirit or a soul for most of my life, and of course I never felt like an animal or a tree or a spring or a rock can have something in it. Nature's lessons quickly debunk this soulless material attitude to everything. Have you ever felt like something normies see as a dead object, like a rock or a creek, actually have a vibe or an attitude or a spirit or something? I'm pretty shit at forming it into words, but you know, sometimes you get this patch of the woods that feels grumpy or chill and such, though there's no obviously grumpy or chill or anything about it. Our world is wonderful. My crusade nowadays is to bring as many of my friends as I can to nature. Last year I dragged a friend on a hike into a wild horse sanctuary, and he cried like a baby after we ran with the horses and fed them an apple slice. People need this shit now more than ever.
I use the word spirit to refer to anything that isn't bound by scientific principles. And yes, I've found that certain objects and places have qualities that are more human than meets the eye. I discovered a small spring that feeds into the river that runs through my city, and I go there regularly because despite being a very small spring in a polluted and mucky river, it has a lively quality to it. I had to throw away a knife once because it was irritable, and I couldn't relax around it. It was a cheap but well-made knife that I got a lot of use out of, but I was always uncomfortable carrying it. I threw it in the river since that's probably the best place to put something you don't want other people finding and using. The river seemed thankful, and I later learned that many cultures sacrifice tools to bodies of water. I've had similar spiritual experiences with cars, clothes, even foods, which is really odd because I've never been picky about appearances or taste. I'll eat anything and I'll use anything regardless of how it looks, but sometimes I get the sense that something is different about one thing in particular that is difficult to put into words. I've never met a wild horse. I think it deserves a spot on my bucket list. That's awesome that you were able to help your friend like that. My best friend and I go fishing together a lot, and he invites me to go camp on his private land. I even found a magical spot nearby where I can swim in the river. It's always a blast to be able to bond in nature where opinions don't matter, so you can feel free to just be in the moment. It's possible for all to benefit from walking outside the man-made boundaries. In fact, it's necessary if you want to be any kind of fully realized person. The more people we can wake up, the more the waking world will be worth living in.
Be surfing with family. See a haggard dude stumble out of the bush. Mom shrieks, "It's Bear Grylls." I'm like, "What the fuck? What are you doing here, Bear?" Bear mumbles, "Some guy with a camera is following him. Follow along watching Bear." Bear talks about how desolate the area is, a total wasteland. What the fuck, I live here. He's on a deserted island with only harsh lava for miles around, become incredibly confused. See his Hawaii episode. Bear is dying in my little cove. They ignore the fact there's a fried chicken truck like 200 feet away from him on the highway. See Bear talking about how hazardous the Kilauea slag is. What the fuck, this is my home.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more Greentext will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.